This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Hi, good morning, George. So Japan's inflation has hit 0% in February, and they already launched its bazooka reflation program through Abenomics. Do you think there are any ammunition left to just prop inflation up a little?
Good morning, Julian. Well, there are some bright spots that are happening now. There's a shrinking working age population. There's a growth in construction work. Jobs to applications ratio is increasing. That's all good short term. Then you start looking at the bigger companies like Toyota. They're reporting record profits, and they're handing out larger pay increases for their workers this spring. All this is good. In terms of the future, though, what the government can do is to eliminate some of the disincentives, such as high corporate tax rates. There's big electricity bills. There's excessive economic rules. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of during this diet session. We're going to have some of the regulations come under attack. I think that we're going to see some improvement in agriculture, health, energy. We're already seeing some success in the agricultural sector to eliminate some of the disincentives. That's probably what's left, and if we can get the virtuous cycle going again, Julian, I think then that will be enough to get the progress that we need in terms of inflation.
Now, some believe that monetary policy isn't sufficient. Do you think that it's time to consider some fiscal stimulus, or would the Diet in Japan actually approve such a policy?
Well, the first question, I think there's been much more trouble gathering traction than what was hoped for. The main reason for the price weakness is a drop in global oil. And, no one, the central bank certainly could not have forecast that. I do expect that Mr. Kuroda will expand his stimulus program this year to push ahead with this fight against deflation. So, yes, I do. There is increasing likelihood that there will be some further easing. And I think that the only problem is there is an increasing worriness about the side effects of Kuroda's record-shattering asset purchases. So there's going to have to be some balance, but I think that there has to be something to get the beneficial circle that we want to going again, and that may be further easing.
Now, what are your views on Japan overall? Are there any specific sectors in particular that you're looking at?
The one sector I am looking at is construction. Anything related to construction, we are underinvested in Japan. We want to wait and see and to have the economy prove that it's on the right track, and that once it gets started, then I think there'll be plenty of time in terms of market timing to get involved. But construction as an area, and those companies, both domestic and international, that are related in Japan, that would be the one area of focus that we would be watching.
And talking about surprises, more coming out of the oil sector again. I mean, we saw recently the airstrikes in Yemen that pushed up oil prices a little bit. But on a more micro level, there had been some reportings coming out of the United States. For instance, Carnival Corp earnings benefited from lower oil prices, but reported earnings were hit by lower value of forward contracts to fix oil costs. This kind of oil asymmetry is very interesting. Do you think this will continue to surprise markets?
Yes, I do. Take a look at Carnival. Its earnings per share beat estimates by more than 100%. But earnings actually missed estimates under generally accepted accounting principles because the fuel costs, there was unrealized losses in the fuel derivatives contracts that Carnival had as a method of protecting from foreign exchange risk. It's going to be very difficult, and we're going to go through a period of 6 to 9 months as the unwinding of current derivatives associated with protecting the current price of oil in the past. In other words, forward-looking contracts that were done 6 to 9 months ago are now coming due. So there will be a reaction to the fact that the price of oil is low. So yes, but the volatility is going to continue because it's not one-sided, and because there are so many different elements in the pricing of oil that are not related just directly to the commodity per se. So yes, I do expect it to continue and go both ways. So I think the one thing we're certain about is volatility.
What about the beneficiaries of lower oil prices? Are you putting more money, or are you at least looking at some of these stocks?
Well, yes. Now, this is really very interesting right now. Yes, we're looking at Thelcor Lodging, which invests in upper-scale full-service hotels. We're looking at Hilton Worldwide in the airspace. We're looking at JetBlue Airway, Six Flags Entertainment. That has a potential. Now, on the negative side, on the short side or the avoidance side, we're obviously trying to stay away from rail-based transportation services like CSX. ExxonMobil is under some pressure, so we probably will be watching that carefully and maybe reducing our positions. But right now, market valuations are much different than the value of companies, the economic strengths and weaknesses of individual companies. And so we're watching foreign exchange relative to the U.S. dollar. We're watching the price of oil. We're watching economic improvement in a countrywide basis. We also have geopolitical turmoil, and then we have quantitative easing. Right now in the U.S., quantitative easing is probably the largest determinant of market valuations. And as the pressure of the other four elements I was discussing begin to accelerate the leaving of quantitative easing, it will do two things to our market. It will reduce prices of stocks in order to get through the transition, and also foreigners who have invested in the U.S. because of quantitative easing may pull their money. So all these are interdependent factors, Julian, and we're watching very carefully. Oil is only one of them. Right now, for us, quantitative easing is most important, but it's going to be very hard to make longer-term calls based on the variability of all these factors at this moment.
And talking about oil prices as well, there had been a lot of conflicting forecasts as to where it will go. Do you think that the latest situation in Yemen would push oil prices back to their previous high levels?
Julian, yes, that will be the direction of what happens with Yemen, particularly in the next 3 months. But it's not going to be one way, because there will be variability of the outcomes that are beginning to surface in Yemen, and at the same time, for example, the nuclear talks that are going in Lausanne now between the foreign ministers of the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany. Some progress is being made there, but as of just a few hours ago, I believe that they appear to have reached an impasse on 2 or 3 of the key issues. That is going to have an effect on the price of oil and what's happening in Yemen, because the players that are involved with directly or indirectly with the nuclear talks are also involved with what's happening in the Yemen-related areas. So there is an awful lot going on right now. Yes, the direction of the price will be up. It could reach prior highs, but it's not going to be one-sided.
Thank you. That was George Dolan, Chairman and Chief Investments Officer of Lander and Fused Capital Managers in New York.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.